Welcome to another episode of Judge for Yourself. Rampant corruption is one of the greatest barriers to transforming our society. The fact of the matter is that we have very serious levels of corruption. One's not quite sure how many billions every year get dissipated, but the reality is that it's a major difficulty. And what is particularly concerning and what we want to actually focus on here is, given these values of transparency and accountability in the Constitution, the institutions which are mandated to deal with that seem to be in turmoil. Both the head of the NPA and the Hawks now face removal. Claims are that the cases against them are politically motivated. Who knows? We need to talk about that. The Special Investigating Unit is also without a head, as Mr. Vassoni has resigned to spend more time with his wife. Now, how do we then start to get a handle on corruption when the very institutions which are mandated to deal with this are in such turmoil? If you'd like to join the debate on Twitter, please use the hashtag JFYCorruption. To discuss this topic, I'm joined by Glynis Breitenbach, who's a former prosecutor, part of the NPA, now MP for the DA on the Justice Committee, Steve Swart, MP for the ACDP, and longest-serving member on the Justice Committee. And in Johannesburg, we're joined by Dr. Ntoli Motshekga, ANC MP, and the chairperson of the Justice Committee in Parliament. Let me start with you, Dr. Motshekga. There's got to be a public concern here. I mean, these institutions are critical, but we've got no leaders now.
The public concern is understandable when you have a situation where public representative represented in Parliament, given the authority by the Constitution to interrogate, to call for evidence, go on an extra parliamentary campaign to actually discredit the very institution, whereas their duty should be to explain and give the facts to the public. So they conduct themselves in a way that creates the impression that there is turmoil. For instance,
I accept that, but I want to get there, and I want to give you every opportunity. But isn't there turmoil? Period.
You cannot talk of turmoil when you have an institution which is run by human beings, and if one of the heads resigns because he has family challenges, obviously there will be it will be headless because the individual has resigned.
I accept that. What about General Dramat and the NPA?
You see, the government has a responsibility to ensure that any person who heads these institutions is beyond reproach. And if there is reasonable suspicion that something is wrong with an individual, the government has the right to institute an inquiry. And instituting an inquiry doesn't constitute turmoil.
All right. Well, what do you say, Ms. Breitenbach?
Well, frankly, I'm astonished. If the heads of those departments need to be beyond reproach, and I agree that they should be, one only has to look at the president and assume that he too should be beyond reproach to run the country. However,
we are not dealing with the president in this program. We're dealing with two organizations.
The president
so let's stick to that.
The president is the person who appoints the two heads of these two organizations. So he appoints Mtolisi Nkosana 18 months ago. 10 months into his tenure, he announces that he's going to have an inquiry into his fitness to hold office because of ostensibly 2 previous convictions that are 20 years old for assault common, for which he got a fine, which denotes the seriousness of the assault. And we all know that a simple telephone call would have ascertained whether he had a criminal record or not. So clearly the president didn't bother to do a background check before he appointed the man into this very important position.
Okay, so let's assume that the president got poor legal advice. Because I'm assuming presidents don't do this all themselves, they get advisors. The question is, what's he supposed to do then?
Well, he should, first of all, fire those people who are giving him legal advice, and clearly he hasn't. Secondly, having learnt a very expensive lesson at the taxpayer's expense with the Menzies and Milani matter, he already knew what the requirements were and should have been a little more diligent in this appointment. Similarly with Anwar Jamaat, he's now said that he's not fit to hold the job that he holds. Robert McBride has come on record publicly to say that the IPID report cleared him of something that happened many, many months ago. Now it's suddenly a reason to suspend the man. Really, there's certainly more to this than meets the eye.
I accept that, but let me now put that to Dr. Motshekga, but let me ask you this. What Dr. Motshekga is also, I think, suggesting is that these processes now are being clouded by what he regards as extra-parliamentary campaigns, which I assume means that we read in our newspapers every day something different, whereas Parliament's really supposed to deal with these questions. Isn't that right?
Well, absolutely, and that's why we in the Justice Portfolio Committee need to look into this. The NPA comes and reports to us, although they have a degree of independence, but there is that Yaqub report that the NDPP requested. I would say let's look into this report. It's had some damning findings.
Have you had a committee meeting where you've done that?
We have not yet, and I think that, and I'm sure Dr. Motshekga would agree with me, that is something that we can really look into because it goes to the heart of the problems and the factionalism within the NPA generally. And I think that is a retired Constitutional Court judge, and I think we need, as a matter of urgency, to consider that report.
Dr. Motshekga, can I just ask you about that, since it's been raised? We read that there is a report which is available from one of the most distinguished Constitutional Court judges this country's had, Mr. Justice Yaqub, which makes some very damning findings. Is that going to go before the Justice Committee so that the matter will be properly aired in Parliament?
You know, I think we need to be observant of a rule of law which says no one must be a judge in their own cause. You have a situation where the head of the NPA has commissioned a report. The report is damning on his colleagues. Now, you have a situation where the president has appointed a commission to look into the fitness or otherwise of the head of NPA. Now, if you have such a situation, if you want to look at the report and come to some determination, you may find that you don't have a full picture. And also here you are dealing with the head of the NPA has rights, and the other persons that have been investigated into have rights, and we don't even know what their responses are to this report. So I think when we deal with state affairs, we must not conduct ourselves as if we are in a state of emergency, because we'll make serious problems.
But can I just ask you this? Justice Yaqub suggests that there should be a full-blown commission of inquiry into the whole of the NPA, not just into the National Director, but into Ms. Jiba, Mr. Mrweni, etc. He's raised those questions. Surely, as a responsible committee of Parliament, you must be mandated to investigate that. Not suggesting that you say he's right or wrong, but to investigate.
You know, I think that we should be actually asking one question. What are the sources of this demand for a full inquiry? Because I don't think that Honorable Breitenbach would be a credible person who can convince us that there is such a need. Because if we do, we would be allowing her to be a judge in her own
I'll
court.
ask her to reply afterwards, but what about Honorable Yaqub?
Honorable Yaqub has made his investigation. We respect him, he's a man of integrity. But you see, if you make a report on behalf of government, you don't at the same time decide for government.
Okay.
Government will have to apply its mind to the report and then decide what action to take.
Dr.
If
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have to take a break, and I promise you I'll give you an opportunity once I return.